Katherine and I both work with startups that are trying to go big because there are a lot of challenges after you make the initial idea and you want to get it out to 1,000 people, tens of thousands, 100,000 people. It's not really as simple as folks think. My name is Brady Forrest. I've been in technology for the past 20 years, doing software first, then media, then a little investment. And in the past 2 years, I just started focusing more and more on hardware and looking at what are the challenges that hardware entrepreneurs are facing. Because, I've been working in hardware actually on the side for quite a while. I go to Burning Man every year, and back in 2004, I built a ill-conceived aluminum hot tub car type thing that unfortunately could never get funding to build it out. Something about no seatbelts, the fact that there was no windshield or any one direction or steering wheel, and that we were using an Xbox controller. But, the lack of visionary investors aside, it was a lot of fun. And it was a lot of work. We had a mechanical engineer with us that was sketching out the plans. We spent a lot of time in the machine shop. And of course, we had amazing lighting. But this was all done in 2004 BA, before Arduino. And the car might have even ran for 5 hours instead of 3. We would have gotten a lot more work done. The lights would have looked even better. But we were in kind of the dark ages of hobbyist consumer electronics. We built our own motor controllers, and that took a lot of time. Had we waited just 1 or 2 more years, we would have been able to use Massimo's Arduino. And if you're not familiar with the story of the Arduino, it's created in 2005 by an Italian professor for his students, and has basically sparked the open source hardware revolution in my mind. It's the basis for thousands of projects that you'll find online, especially on the site Instructables, and for almost all the projects here at Maker Faire. And because when you put tools in the hands of anyone, then anyone can have an idea and bring it to fruition. And that's what I like to work on at Highway 1. We grab people after they've hit that prototype phase, they know what they want to build, and they're looking for help actually scaling it up, and they want to go into production. Now, one project that we worked with is called Skylock. 2 fellows, one a Boeing engineer, another a Jawbone engineer. They wanted to create a solar-powered keyless entry bike lock. In the past 4 months, they went from a Lego Mindstorms prototype with the locking mechanism and a mostly functioning iPhone app to a crowdfunding campaign that just launched this week. And this bike lock, like anything else connected, suddenly opens up all new powers to the device. So with solar, it never requires charging. Because it's connected to your phone, it'll give you theft alerts, and it can send out crash alerts if it detects too much vibration while you're riding. Another project that we had come through is the Q, which does at-home medical diagnostics with your phone. So you can check to see if you have too much inflammation, too much testosterone, or too little, or if you have the flu. And then your phone can be kind of a diagnosis for you before you go to the doctor. All of these teams came to us because they knew how hard it would be to actually go to manufacturing. But there's always a kind of let us help you figure it out moment where they don't know what they don't know. The unknown unknowns, as Rumsfeld might say. And these are some of the misconceptions that those companies and geniuses have. All I need is my prototype. I've made it. I can make the LED blink. I can record the data. Boom. I'll just go to China or some other factory and they'll make it for me. Tens of thousands of these and then everyone will buy it. That's not the case. As Sunny Vu of Misfit Wearables says, it's easy to make something, but making something that can be made is hard, really hard. You're trying to teach people And it's all made by people, not robots, as I'll cover later, to make something thousands of times. So you need to think of each possible mistake that they might make while creating your invention. You need to make sure the machines are going to be able to reproduce it each time. And you can't just show up with your prototype. The second misconception is, I'll just do it myself. I made this prototype. How much harder can it be? The factory will cover it for me. Again, not true. When you're actually making atoms instead of bits, you need to cover all the different facets. Our teams, the teams that do best, have mechanical engineers, they have electrical engineers, they have industrial designers, and they have firmware. You need the mechanical engineer to make sure the enclosure works, to make sure the hinges don't fall apart. You need the electrical engineer to make the board small enough to fit. You need the firmware engineer to make sure your battery will last long enough. And you need your industrial designer to make sure it works for the user and to knock the ugly off it. The next misconception we see is companies saying, I'm just going to Kickstarter this project. The fact is, to do a good Kickstarter campaign requires a lot of money. You can't just put up a web page and have everyone come to you. If you search the Kickstarter forums, you'll see a lot of examples of folks who ended up paying over what they raised just to produce that initial project. Instacube is a great example. It's a project. They raised over $600,000 to build a picture frame, connected, of course. They're now over a year late in shipping. Backers are getting upset, and it's because they didn't properly cost it out. They didn't actually know for sure how they were going to make it, and they paid themselves along the way, as opposed to devoting all the money to the project. Another misconception is that robots will make my product. As I mentioned earlier, factories, especially when you're first starting up, are very people-intensive. Instead, they're people with tools that are making your product, checking to make sure that it works along the way. And finally, everybody waits to do the software and UX. They don't really think about how the user is going to interact with it. I have a Sonos at home. It's a music system, and I spent several $100s on the little boxes that actually play my music, but it's the iPhone app, the Android app that I work with every day. And if those are buggy, that's what I start to hate. Users will press buttons for the first week to make sure that they work, but after that, it's all about the software. And so to put that on the back end is forgetting what your users are really going to care about. I have an iPhone instead of an Android because I care about the apps that the iPhone has, as opposed to the hardware. And that's the case for anybody you're trying to sell a connected product to. But you've made it. It's shipping. You had built a team. You raised some money to help your Kickstarter. You learned more about people making your products. And now you want to sell it. Please welcome up my colleague, Katherine, who's been helping hardware entrepreneurs do that for quite some time now.
Thank you so much, Brady. So Brady and I work together, and Brady works on the PCH incubator, Highway 1, that actually helps people get their ideas from a prototype to a manufacturable prototype. And at that point, once you have a manufacturable prototype, you know what's going to happen in your factories, that's generally when people come to me. And I help people put together their marketing campaign, launch their products, and actually run the commerce that takes money from your customers and helps you put product in those people's hands. So now you have to sell it. My name's Katherine Hague, and I started a company called ShopLocket. And ShopLocket powers the e-commerce of thousands of hardware entrepreneurs that are out there trying to sell products all the way from the pre-order phase right through until a full shopping cart. A lot of people will come to us right after they've done a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo. we found that a lot of the stories of these amazing entrepreneurs that were launching their products never really made it out there. How did that company raise $10 million on Kickstarter? How did that company raise $600,000? Why didn't that one hit their goal? Most of these you wouldn't actually find the answers to unless you took those people out to coffee. So I did just that. I took, probably up till now, about 60 hardware entrepreneurs out to coffee, taped my conversation with them, asking them these very questions, and put it online for any future hardware entrepreneurs to read. And through that, we were able to put together this Launch Academy. It's an 85-page friendly guide that you can go through, and it talks about everything from manufacturing to actually putting together the press to be able to do your launch, all of the hacks around Kickstarter, all of the stats from some of the best campaigns, really all of the learnings that we got from these interviews made available. So if you go to shoplocket.com, it's a free download on our website, if you just scroll to the bottom, and this is a guide that we were able to put together. But what I wanted to talk about today is, instead of you having to go through that entire guide, I wanted to go through some of the top 10 mistakes I see founders making when launching their products. So, the first one. A lot of people launch too early. They don't do their homework. A lot of these resources are available, whether it's our guide, whether it's blog posts, whether it's talking to someone that's done it before. You really need to understand what you're getting yourself into. And what I've discovered is that there really does seem to be a playbook for doing a successful crowdfunding campaign or a successful launch. And you just need to do your research to understand, is your launch going to succeed, and set yourself up as best as humanly possible for success. Here's just a few of the stats that we've learned. In order to guarantee the success of your launch in a crowdfunding campaign, you need to raise at least 35% of your goal on day one. A lot of people will come to me on day 4, sorry, we've only raised about $1,000, a $50,000 goal. What can we do to really, push ourselves over the edge and get to our goal by the end of the month? At that point, it's almost too late. Really, you need the momentum of that first day, the initial press, people thinking that you're new and in the market and you're a success. Success breeds success. People want to think that they were an early backer of something amazing. The next one, campaigns with day-to-day marketing campaigns raise 180% more. This means that it's not just your TechCrunch article that's going to launch you and get you to your goal. You really have to think what comes after that first launch. The next one is that campaigns need to send lots of updates. Campaigns that send updates 1 to 5 times a week tend to double their contributions. That means all of us people that like really unsubscribing to emails, we hate the number of emails we get. It's counterintuitive, but you need to be updating your backers. They want to hear from you. They want to hear about your success because it means they were successful in picking a great company to back. 62% of their campaigns that reach their goals have repeat backers. So your people that back you in the early stages are the same people that might back you again or share you with your friends. You really need to value those people. And finally, campaigns with teams tend to raise 38% more. A campaign is a lot of work. You need to put a lot of effort into planning it. There's support. There's the day-to-day marketing. Don't try to do it yourself. Really put the right team behind you. So that's number 1, plan for your launch. The second one, people generally do absolutely no consumer research. They say, I want to buy it, and some of my friends said they'd buy it, therefore it must be worth putting out there. And they put all of this time and effort into the launch, into their manufacturing, just to realize that maybe the market for their product was literally only themselves and their 5 friends. So do everything you can to collect email addresses, survey people. If someone says they want to buy it, take their money immediately and see if they're really telling you the truth. Number 3, a lot of people think they want to be this hardware startup. They think they want to grow into this big company, but the truth is they're planning to launch projects, not companies. They think that success is hitting that $50,000 goal and shipping that first batch. They're not actually looking at anything further than that first batch. If all you want to do is hit that $50,000 goal, ship that to customers, that's amazing, that's respectable, that's what you should do. But maybe you shouldn't be trying to raise venture capital. Maybe you shouldn't be talking to manufacturers that really want you to be placing hundreds of thousands of unit orders eventually. These are the things you need to start thinking about. Number 4, a lot of people finish their Kickstarter campaign and stop taking orders. They tell people, give us your email address, we'll get back to you when we're ready to take orders. And what they're doing is they're effectively losing all of the orders for the months between Kickstarter ending and actually launching into full shippable products. You can collect credit card numbers and charge people when you ship your product. That's something that we do at ShopLocket. And we find about a 90% conversion when you actually try to charge those cards, as opposed to maybe a 5% conversion if you were just collecting email addresses. Number 5, a lot of people literally plan absolutely no marketing after their launch. They expect that whatever they're going to do at launch is just going to carry, and they're going to ride through that, and they're going to be this amazing company. You talk to any founder that has actually built a company, you need to be always thinking about the next thing, the next way that you can reach out to someone. If these were the early adopters, people most excited to hear about you, it's only going to get harder to find those people, and you have to have strategies. Whether it's coming to events like this, whether it's mailing lists, you need to reach out. Number 6. A lot of people set the wrong pricing. Like Brady was saying, they may have never talked to a factory. They'll just throw it up on Kickstarter and then realize, oh, wait, I need retail margin. Oh, there's 15 steps in my supply chain, and each one adds additional costs. I have to pay for packaging. Wait, I didn't accept shipping rates. All of these things add up to the point that a lot of Kickstarters or a lot of product launches in general make no money because they didn't set the right pricing. Number 7. A lot of people will just raise enough money in their pre-order campaign to ship the product, and they forget that they have a team of people that need to eat. And then they realize they don't actually have enough money to keep the lights on in their office to take them through those 8 months until they can ship product. They have to go out and raise money from investors who know the position that they're in. They end up having terrible terms on that investment. So when you're raising money or starting up a company, make sure you actually have the runway, personally, to get you past that and get you to the point of shipping product. Number 8. A lot of people, when they launch, they get hundreds of emails in those first couple of weeks from some distributor in Australia, some person in China, and they're so excited. This is incredible. Everyone wants their product. Everyone loves them, but they've never heard of these distributors or these partners before. They end up getting on the phone. They're so excited. Maybe they even fly there because this is so exciting. It's the largest distributor in Australia. They must be amazing. And then you realize maybe this wasn't as legitimate a business contact. You start talking to references, and that's not really the partner you want. You're not ready for consignment. You're actually not ready to go into retail. Wait, you haven't even shipped a product yet. And all of these things mean that you're wasting time, wasting money, and in some cases, you're actually making bad partnerships that could ruin the company. So be cautious. Take your time and listen to people and get references before investing too much time into some of these partnerships. Number 9. This is a very, very common one. A lot of people are super good at giving updates during their campaign. Then they realize they're running a little bit late on manufacturing after the campaign, or they realize something's not going to work, and they're terrified of the people that bought their product. They don't want to talk to them. They want to hide in their room. They want to sit in the corner, and they don't want anyone to message them. They don't want to put an update on their blog because it's a really bad update. They really just don't want to send it out. And then weeks go by and months go by, and your backers are getting more worried, more frustrated. They don't know what's going on. Over-communicate. Tell people what's happening as soon as you can. You'll build trust. You'll build transparency. And for all you know, one of your backers is someone that could actually help you get further faster. Now, my final one in this top 10 sort of misconceptions about launches is that a lot of people, for some reason, assume that launch sales are going to be sustainable. You're going to have this amazing launch. Let's say you blew your goal away. You did 200,000 in your Kickstarter launch, or even $1 million in your Kickstarter launch. Okay, multiply that by the year. You're going to do 12 million in sales this year. That's incredible. The truth is, what we see is it actually takes 6 months to 2 years for the companies that do these pre-order campaigns to match their launch sales. And when you look at that, it's not necessarily the end of the world. It means you need to actually build a business. That was just your launch. But when you plan your business around the fact that you think your launch sales are going to continue, you end up getting shocked when you have to actually come up with a marketing campaign or find new partnerships or think of new pricing strategies. Think about this from the beginning and set yourself up for success afterwards. So all of that said, there's really good news. There's a ton of people in the industry that really, really want you to succeed and want to help and have experience with this. This is a mixture of crowdfunding companies, there are different investors up here, there's accelerators, there's incubators, all that are focused on making hardware startups successful. So this is a great place to be. Reach out to people. They want to help you and they'll guide you along. Our approach at PCH is we have an end-to-end platform that will start with the incubator, will help you through startup manufacturing, we help you validate the idea through e-commerce and ShopLocket, and can actually get you distribution into retail like the Apple Store. So we really try to help our entrepreneurs from the very beginning to the end, and you can sort of enter at any point in the platform, but we're just one of many players in this ecosystem really trying to help these hardware startups. So just some final thoughts. And what Brady was saying, I highly recommend you get on a plane to Shenzhen if you plan to manufacture a product. It's a 12-hour flight, not that expensive though. Go, it will totally change your business and how you look at things. Read Tim Chang's A Wearable Startup Playbook. It's amazing. It takes you through all of the next level of what people should be thinking about in this industry as they build real businesses, not just projects. And now this one's a little bit of a random one. It's one I saw on Netflix a few months ago. It's called Scatter My Ashes at Bergdorf's. And it talks about fashion designers trying to get into Bergdorf's. They're building these products and they're really, really hoping that the retail chain will pick them up. And it talks about all of these issues with pricing and exclusivity and launches in the fashion world. And as you watch this, apply it to yourself as a product entrepreneur, as a hardware entrepreneur, and I promise you'll find some really interesting learnings out of it. So that's us. That's Brady from Highway 1, myself, Katherine from ShopLocket. You can feel free to email us directly, and I hope everyone has a wonderful time at Maker Faire. Thank you. Any questions?
The question was whether or not the medical product that I mentioned, if it would check blood sugar. I mean, there are many connected blood sugar devices out there, and in theory they could, but the team decided to pursue other things that are currently not available for home diagnostic. I think the full suite, to begin with, is vitamin D, testosterone, fertility, and influenza and inflammation. The question is when should you bring in business expertise? In my opinion, you need to make sure that your market exists before you build the product, or before you decide how many of the product you should build. Otherwise, you might price it wrong, you can't sell it, you have bad inventory. There's a lot of risk with hardware that's just not there with software. And a thing I talk about a lot is how we're kind of in the early days of hardware. But software has learned how to scale cheaply. So Friendster, when it was first created in 2004, raised some $40 million in venture capital to build out data centers. Now they would just use a credit card and use Amazon Web Services. Hardware is kind of in that Friendster stage when you need a lot of money up front to actually ship product. So I would bring in business early.
So my personal way of doing this is just move really, really, really quickly, but make sure you check the right boxes before launching. I've seen some incredible launches planned in 4 weeks. It's just that the team was really on top of it. They went through all of their research. They knew what they were doing. They talked to lots of different people. So I don't think that preparation necessarily means that you have to take so much time to do it, but make sure that you're not being naive and just sort of going out there and doing it. So timing is really important. You know, being first to market is still important, but I don't think you have to take tons of time to be well prepared. There is a company that I heard of recently that was trying to actually build some sort of software to record that. I'll have to look it up though and try to find it. What I've seen work really well, it really is getting as far down Brady's path as humanly possible before launching. The second that you have a prototype that you can put in someone's hand and let them use, and it's not just your mother who sort of, you're telling her every step of the way what she should do, don't press that button because it doesn't work quite yet. Put it in someone's hand and see what actually happens, and do that as much as possible. I've seen some people that will do that phase with their friends and family, then external people, they'll actually do a focus group, they'll come out to events like this before they launch and put it in front of people, let people test it. They'll give it to people, let them have it for a month, let them have it for all the time until you actually launch. And then even once you've taken pre-orders, you can keep doing that. Even giving review units out to reporters before you do your launch. It's just how far down manufacturing can you get before opening that up so that you can be at prototype number 30 before it's the shipping one, instead of prototype number 1 is the first one you ship and you're like, oh my God. I hope that helps a bit, but I don't know if you have anything to add.
There are a lot of local vendors that will help you do small runs. So a number of the teams that are coming in the fall to the Highway 1 class are producing 20 or 30 unit runs, and they cost more than they would if they made it at scale. But it's totally worth it because they'll have learnings. They're coming to us actually to do the final prototype, which will actually be like V4, V5, and then that's what they're going to go to market with. For Highway 1, so we invest in the companies, so we give them $50,000 for a percentage of the company, and then we provide them with, we have mechanical engineers on staff, electrical engineers, shop space. We're in the Mission in San Francisco. It's a 4-month cohort. So right now I have 12 companies. In the fall, where the bike lock and the medical device were, those 11 companies were probably, if we find enough teams that we like, we'll take 15 in the fall. And about a quarter of them are international.
I mean, I think that the faster you can get your idea out there and be first to market, whether it's shipping or not, is very important. I've seen a Kickstarter go up as the first to market, and then 2 weeks later, another one goes up and gets 0 press and just doesn't hit its goal. Being first in a category on Kickstarter or Indiegogo is incredibly important. However, if you're going to do that, commit to a ship date that's everyone should, no more than 6 months in my head, I'd say, between when you take those orders and when you ship the product. Stay relevant. If people notice that it's a year later and you haven't shipped, there's an opportunity for someone else to do another one and be like, those people have no idea what they're doing. We're going to ship in 3 months. We're the ones that are actually going to do this. So there's some risk, but just be the ones that ship.
And there are other vendors out there besides Indiegogo and Kickstarter. There's CrowdTilt, Self-Starter. So you can do crowdfunding on your own site, but what you gain in SEO and having control, you lose in the community that Kickstarter and Indiegogo supplies you. So often you'll find that projects, people don't realize that it's not Amazon, they're just ordering a product that they can buy right now, and the community will go in and explain to them that you're helping something come into existence. So I think you have to look at how you're going to do on the various platforms. In terms of what segment we look at for Highway 1, I mean, the first thing we look at is the quality of the team. Second, we look at the product, and do we like it? Do we think it should exist? Does it make the world or people's lives better? But some of the markets that we're interested in, Internet of Things, wearables, I mean, definitely personal health. I mean, two of our most successful teams came in that space. We're looking at for the fall, we're looking at a number of companies in the education space that are, type of companies you would see selling wares at Maker Faire, kind of kits for education around electronics and making. We really want to encourage makers, so we're definitely looking to take 1 or 2 companies in that space. Thank you very much.